Hey, this is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and we are on week 15 of our Dear Jane Quilt Along. I mean, it just is getting more exciting each week. And all the things we've learned doing all these blocks. I mean, Dear Jane Stickle was just amazing at all the different ways she put together blocks. There's been some easy ones, there's been some challenging ones, there's been some that we've had to modify. So, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you'll get notified of all the Dear Jane things we're doing, all the other quilt alongs, all the other fun stuff we got going on in this channel. For Dear Jane, I am starting the videos off with EQ8 lessons. I'm showing you how I am going to be doing them if you want to do them the same way. With foundation paper piecing, in the block construction, I also, on my website, will give you my cut pieces if you like the way my pieces look. So, there we go, a little business out of the way. This week, we've got a couple lessons. I'm going to be modifying a couple of blocks this week. So, if you're interested, stick around here for the EQ8 stuff I'm going to be doing, and we'll have some fun. But anyway, let me know if you're populating your color quilt that's included in the Dear Jane add-on for EQ8. I think it's a blast. I love doing it each week. This week I'm going to be using these teals as my batiks, and I've gone ahead and colored some of my blocks. Let me get me out of the way. Here's some of my blocks for this week. Not some of them. Those are all my blocks for this week. I tried to color them to match my batiks as best I can. So let's set my blocks. This week we are going to be doing D4. Goes there. D13. We got two D13s. Or D row this week. We've got F5. Goes, ooh, look at that. F row starting to get put together. We have got J11, J11, ooh, sandwich in there, and RS2, which I need to rotate once I get it put in there. All right, that's what it's starting to look like with the colors. I do populate the photo quilt, but I do that at the end of the video. But anyway, let's start off, or let's get to modifying a couple of our blocks here, and I'm going to show you which ones I'm using. I'm using some variations, so let's get started. Let's head over to the block work table. All right, let's start with D4. I am going to modify this block. If we take a look at it in the drawing, and the only difference between this and the variation is these appliques right here come out to the corner. So I'm just working with the D4 block because I like how my applique is going to leave 1/4 inch. Anyway, let's go over to draw and let's take a look at this. So you can see we have our applique right here in the corners. Let's take our applique out, and we've got these mitered corners. There's nothing wrong with mitered corners, but our applique covers them. So to me, it's like, why should I work so hard to do these Y seams when they're just going to be covered up anyway? So I am going to modify this so that I don't have Y seams. So I'm going to start by deleting these corner miters. All right, there we go. Corners are out. Now all I want to do is add a straight line here so we have a top and a bottom row and basically a center row. All right, there we go. Let's put our applique back in. And that's what it looks like. To me, it's going to look exactly the same because there's no color variation back there where the applique is. So let's go to print, let's go to foundation, let's see if it could figure it out for us, and it could not. So it didn't section this off for us, probably because of the applique. What I want to do is I want to click back here in the background. See right there, don't click on your applique because it will grab it. Click in the background, click the center, and click in the background there, and that's our first group. Same thing down in the bottom row. Just don't click your applique, group it. Side row's easy. group, side row, group, and then the center will be its own. And let's go over to numbering, and we need to number it ourselves. It numbered it, but it's in light colors, so let's just do it so it shows up. C1, C2, C3, D1, D2, D3, and E1. So there we go. Let's preview it. Look at that. We now have an easy paper piece to put together. And then we just need to go over to our templates, and we just need one of these templates so we can delete everything else and either just keep one of these petals. So that will be our applique. So that's how I am doing D4 modified. All right, D13 is easy. But foundation paper piecing, look at this. Simple. The only thing I would do is, let's change our numbers. I'm going to start in the middle, and then I'm going to go around. So I would just change this personally to this being the first piece and going out. And then that way, all our seams will be ironed away from that center. That's just me personally. You can do it the way that EQ8 gives it to you. And it's just going to be all one section here. All right. That's easy. Let's go to block F5. So this is not the one I'm going to use. This is in their center blocks, and you can see that this is pieced. I don't want to piece that. It looks like a nightmare to me. If you want to piece it, then that is wonderful. I would love to see it if you did. Personally, just tag me and let me see it if you piece it. But I personally don't want to piece it. So let's go look at the variations. Center block variations, F5. And there is only one variation for F5, so let's pull it up. It is a combination of pieced and applique. So let's take the applique out, and you can see we have lines that the applique covers just like we did in the first one. So what I want to do with this piece is I want to do, again, where I create squares so that I have squares in each corner. Now these are not very good, but I just want to visually show you what I want. And then what we can do is start connecting in here to make a center row and then some center pieces here. So let us get our line drawing out. And to make these corners, I want to draw lines across here that are going to intersect. Like that. There we have an intersection. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. And when I say intersect, it's with these points right here. And then we need to do it on the side also. And all you have to do is get close, because EQ8 will snap it over for you. All right, so now you can see that we have created these corners. And we've got these center sections. And we've got these center sections, and we've got this center row. Now, the thing with these center sections, these two pieces are the same color. So I want to take this out. I want to delete that. We will just have one piece of fabric in there. All right, so we have a 9 patch now with 4 corners. And if we go, let's take a look at the foundation paper piecing, see what they did. Okay, they don't like the applique, even though I had it grayed out. So we need to section this ourselves. I'm going to start in the corners. So start over, and let's do each corner is a square and a square, and we're going to group it. So each corner will get grouped on its own. Okay, there's the 4 corners. We can do a row as a group if you want to do it that way. So let's do that. Remember, don't click on the applique part. Let's group the rows, and then we'll have each of these pieces be a center. its own group. So there we go. It's all sectioned out, and it's going to make it so much easier. So it numbered it, but it's grayed out, so it wants it to number us, have us number for it. Now, in each one of these corners, I'm going to start in the middle and then work around. So I'm going to hit the middle, and it'll be A1, and then I can just work around from there. Corner, start in the middle, calls it the first piece. So I'm doing that in all my corners. And then here we've got E1, E2, E3, and then G1 and F1. So just make sure you don't hit the applique and you'll be good. Let's preview this. Look at those pretty squares. So now we have, actually, this is all one color. So if we come back here, real quick, we draw this out. We don't even need these lines either. So let's delete these. And then we will have one long piece in the middle. So you could do foundation paper piecing for the corners, and we need to resection. I'm going to do that real quick. I've resectioned it. I have to renumber it too. Okay, there I've renumbered it. Let's see what it looks like now. Look at that. We even made it a little easier. So we just pretty much have the corners that we have to, and then 3 pieces. That's how I changed F5 using the variation. And then all we have to do is, after that, we just have to go to the templates, and we need to print out these little petals here so that we can applique them on. So I don't know. I think it made it easier. What do you think? I'm looking forward to doing the block. All right, J11 is an applique, and you can see that it's totally an applique. So I'm just going to go over here, print templates out, and I really only need one of these petals, so I can delete the rest of them. I just need to know how many to make, which is 6, and then cut a 5-inch square, and then I have to lay them out. So that's pretty easy to put together. So we've got RS2 Cherokee Lee, and this is going to be a pretty straightforward foundation paper piecing. We've got 3 sections and the side pieces, and that's what it's going to look like when we print it out. So there you go. Modified a couple blocks this week, and I think it's going to make it easier. Personally, if you don't modify them and you do it the other way, let me know. I'd love to see it. I would love to see how you do it. Anyway, let's get started on these blocks. I'm going to show you my modified versions, and it's going to be fun. They're going to be pretty. All right, week 15. We are starting off with D4 Crystal Star. This is the one I modified for no Y seams, because here's the block. The seams went up to the corners, and I just made them so that they came straight across. So this shouldn't be too hard to put together. And then we have the applique that goes in the corners. I've got that on my pieces here too. So this goes in the center. These are for my triangles. The little rectangles are for my shorter strips, and the longer are for the longer strips. So let's just put together a short strip real quick, because they'll all be the same, and then we'll put the block together. Let's do one of the small pieces here. So I've got 2 of my smaller triangles in my color square. I've got it kind of marked out here. These are my seam allowances on the outside, and here's my seams. This is the order I'm going in. I need a white and a blue and a white. I'm going to take one of my whites right here and make sure that I've got coverage. You can't see any of the lines I drew out here. You can't see the seam line, so I have coverage. I'm going to clip it. You can pin it. Flip it over. I want to do my 1/4 inch at this point. So I'm going to fold it over on the line, and I'm going to cut my 1/4 inch. There's my 1/4 inch. I'm going to kind of center this so that when we flip it, I have room over here. So let's now sew between B1 and B2. There's my second piece put on. I can hold it up to the light, see that I have plenty of coverage. So we want to now fold it back and trim for our third piece. And this is a rectangle. I want it to fit like this. But if I do it like this, I don't think it's gonna fit. Actually, it does fit. I thought I would have to trim it, but it does fit. So my corners are right here and right here, so that if I just kind of test out my 1/4 inch, you can see that it hits that a little bit. So we could just scooch it down and sew it on. All right, I did a big enough piece. Now we'll sew between B2 and B3. There's my first piece. You can kind of see I have a little bit of a corner showing there. It will work, but if you don't want to do it that way, I'll show you a different way that you can get it to line up. So I'm gonna lay my next piece. I've already put these 2 pieces together. Got it trimmed. I'm gonna lay my next piece out so that it fits. I'm going to clip it, and you may be able to see the blue behind there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 1/4 inch. I'm going to line my 1/4 inch up on my blue and draw a line like you would if you were to be cutting it. Oops. So I want to cut right there. Let's cut right on that line. So then what that does is when we flip it over, and we need to flip it over like this and line it up, when I sew it, it will fall exactly how I need it. So that's an alternative way to do these. And you know what? I would probably do it on these longer ones. The shorter ones, it'll probably fit better, but these longer ones, it won't. I can see that right now. So that's how I'm going to do these, and so that they fold over and fit. All right, I'm gonna get these finished up and we'll put our little block together. Here's my pieces finished. I have attached my center square to my paper piece and trimmed it. So what we need to do is just put this together. We're gonna put these 2 on the center piece. I'm gonna iron my pieces open, then I'm gonna add these 2 on, iron it open. And I don't know if you noticed, I had my applique on the wrong color, but I hadn't ironed it down yet, so I just peeled it off and put it on the right color. I'm going to get these cut out and we'll get these pieces added also. There's my block put together. I have ironed my seams open. Now we need to put our 4 petals in the outside corners. We basically want to line up 1 point here with this corner and 1 point with that corner. Make sure we have a 1/4 inch left in here for our seam allowance. And then once we get these on, we iron them down, and that will be it for this block. And I know that the Y seams probably wouldn't have been that bad, but I don't know that it really changes the look of the block or anything that much. So I'm happy with the way I did it. Let me know how you did it. Let me know if you did it with the Y seams, with the mitered corners, I think is what you want to call them, or did you change it up? And there we go. Cute little block. We've got D13 Field of Dreams. If you've done any quilting, you've done a block like this one. Square in a square, diamond in a square. If you have the It's So Emma paper piecing tablets, you may have the size that this is. I don't think I do, so I'm just going to use this paper piece. It's going to be real easy. I've got my center square and I've got my corner triangles. So let me get ready. Here's the back of my paper piece. Here's my square. I made it 1/4 inch wider than the seams, so I'm going to just tape this down. I can see the lines. I can see where I'm landing, so I'm just going to tape it down so it stays in place. So I've got my center square taped down to keep it in place. I've laid my blue triangle down. Here's the corner I want to get to. I'm just going to kind of eyeball my corners, and I am going to sew. Actually, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter which one you do. You can start anywhere. I happen to choose A5. I'm going to sew on this line, and then I'm going to just trim all these lines and do the same thing. So all the way around this. It's pretty easy. I'm sure all of you have done this block before. And there we go. Field of Dreams. Looks like a baseball field. Square and a square. Super easy to put together. You could do this without paper piecing. I do paper piecing because I think for me it turns out a little more square. We are on F5. This is Parcheesi. I'm using variation 2 and I have modified it. So this is what it looks like when it's in paper piece form. Plus we're going to have the, here's the block we're doing. We're going to have the applique that goes in between. So I went ahead, I could have done this before I printed it, but I didn't. I went ahead and changed all my #1 pieces in my square and a square to be the center, and then out here I put my second piece. That's how I like to do these. These little pieces are exactly like the last block we just did. So I'll put together one of these sections right here, and then it's gonna go pretty easy from there. So I have, let's see, this one, these pieces are for these two. This long piece is in the middle. All these triangles go around the square and the square, and then my little white ones go in the middle. Also, in case you're new here, I do have all my cut pieces on my website, and there's a link in the description down below if you want to use the cut pieces I use, if you like how they look when I do them. All right, let me get this cut out and we'll get started. Here's the back of the piece. I'm going to demonstrate. I have my center square because I'm starting with my first piece in the middle. I made it so it's 1/4 inch larger on each side. I'm going to use a piece of tape. I can see the lines. I'm just going to use a piece of tape to kind of secure it in there. And this is actually my #2, but it doesn't matter where I start, so I don't want to go through my tape. I'm going to start up here in this corner. I'm going to put my triangle down, and this is the area I need to cover. And there's my seam allowance. So plenty of coverage. So I'm going to get this sewn right here, and it is between A1 and B5, but it doesn't matter where you start. And then I'm going to finish all the way around, just like I did with the last block that I did. Finish out my square and a square, and we'll come back. There we go. There's our little square and a square. Let's turn it over. Let's put our last piece on. Let's get it trimmed. And this is going to be one of my blue squares. I'm just going to line it up on that seam, and it goes off the paper. So we are good on our seam allowances. So now we're going to sew along this line here. And then I'm going to finish up all these pieces and we'll put our block together. Here's all my pieces finished. I've trimmed them up. And this is how they get laid out. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could do it like this also. These just need to be in the corners. So we need to get these 2 rows sewn up and then added to this row. And I'm going to iron all my seams open, and then we'll come back and put the applique on. Here's my block put together. And so now I'm just going to do my applique pieces, and it's basically, they're just going to kind of line up with the points of these white squares. I'm just going to kind of center them and put them down. So not too hard a block to put together either. So once I modified it, it really isn't that bad. There we go. F5 variation 2 modified. That's a pretty cool looking block. I like it. Next up we have J11 Twin Sister. This is just a background square with some applique on it. So I've got my applique pieces ready to be cut out, and then I'm going to show you how I lay them out onto my background. I have gone ahead and creased my background square on both diagonals. And I'm going to use those diagonals to lay my pieces down. And I want my pieces to start about 1/4 inch away from the corner, and then I want my points to lie on the crease. So let's see if that works. Then I'm going to lay them point to point. Let's see where this one lands. Looks like it's going to land about 1/4 inch. So I'll just finish up this side, and that'll be the end of this block. Pretty simple. All right, J11 Twin Sister is done. That took no time at all. We are on the right side 2, Cherokee Lee. This is one of our border blocks. This is what it's going to look like. It's really pretty. And I made no modifications to this. I think it's going to be, I don't know. Sometimes I say straightforward, but then I hit these angles and I don't know. Let's check it out and see. So what I have is I have two really long pieces that are here. I have squares that will be all of the triangles and diamonds you see in here. These two rectangles will go here. All the white squares are the diamonds and that triangle. These two rectangles are going to be up here in the tip. And then this, there's two. There should be two of these. I need to cut another one. Are going to be these two pieces right here. Goodness gracious, what should we do? What should we do? Let's do this piece. And then maybe I'll do this piece. All right, I'm going to demonstrate this piece because it's very similar to some other pieces in this. It starts here, down here on this triangle, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we add the big piece with 5. I have laid out my seam allowances. Here's our first piece, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and these are the corners of my piece. So I need 2 blue squares, I need 2 white squares, and a long rectangle of blue for me. So let's start with the blue. I'm going to put it between the first and second piece, about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to take my white square and I'm going to offset it a little because right here is my seam allowance. So I have plenty to work with this way. I don't need a lot this way. So we are going to sew on the line between B1 and B2. There's my second piece. You can see that it falls outside of the seams here by quite a bit, so I have a big enough piece. Let's trim between B2 and B3. Now we need a blue square, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of offset it. Right there's my seam allowance, and I need to have coverage basically here. So I will, as noted by that piece, sew between B2 and B3. Here's my third piece, plenty of coverage there. So let's go between B3 and B4 and trim. And we'll take our white piece and again, let's offset it from the piece below it. Right there's my seam allowance. And so now I need to cover all of that, which I should cover. I could probably actually bring it over a little closer. All right, so between B3 and B4. Here's my fourth piece. Had plenty of fabric there. I went ahead and trimmed along the line here between all my pieces in B5. So now I can add my blue and line it up with my seam line. My edge is outside of each of these corners, so we're doing good. And now we're going to sew on this really long seam line here next to B5. Here's this piece finished. I will trim everything at the end. This piece is pretty much exactly the same as this one. It's just that this is a little bit different shape, but I think, and this is just a longer piece than B5, but I think I'll put it together anyway, and then you'll have an example of the two types of pieces that are in this block. So I've already, let's see, gone and done these seams. Let's do the corners. So there we go. So we need a white square, a blue square, and one of these white rectangles, and we're going to need one of these blue long pieces here in a minute. So let's turn it over. Okay, first thing we need to do is take a white square, lay it 1/4 of an inch over the line between 1 and 2, making sure we have plenty of coverage everywhere. And again, here's my seam allowance. So let's stagger this to where it lands almost, the corner lands almost on that seam allowance. And then we will sew between 1 and 2. Just like the last piece. There is my second piece, no line showing, so that's good, means we have coverage. So I think actually this third piece might need to be worked on to make it fit. So let's check it out. I'm gonna trim. I think what we're gonna have to do, because if we lay it like this, it may be hard to figure out how to get it to, oh yeah, it's not going to fit. It needs to come down to here. So what we need to do is, let me draw lines here. That's the coverage we need. So I'm going to lay my piece over top. So I have coverage, and I'm even past the seam allowance over here, so that's good. Coverage here. So I can see my blue piece under there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1/4-inch ruler. This is how I usually do it. I'm going to put the 1/4-inch on the edge of my blue piece, and I'm going to draw a line outside there. So that's going to make my 1/4-inch seam allowance for me. So let's cut along this edge, and we had it laying like this. There we go. So I'm going to flip it over and line it up. And so now when we sew, it'll lay the correct way. All right, I'm going to get this sewn between 2 and 3. There we go. No lines showing on any of my seams, lines, or seam allowance. And that's how I do these weird angles, is you sometimes need to cut it so that it fits in the right spot. All right, now we need to do this big piece, and let's see how that fits. I gotta get turned around where I can trim. So we want to go on this line right here, fold it over, let's trim it up, and I need one of these long pieces, and I made these plenty big. So we need to line it up on our seam allowance, and you can see I'm way over the paper, and I made it plenty wide, so this should work, lining up right on our seam allowance, and we're gonna sew right on this line right here. So let's see what it looks like. There we go. You can't even see paper, so I had plenty to work with. So that's how you do that piece. That's how I worked with this weird angle right here. And this one will be exactly the same. Oh no, it won't. That's just 2 pieces. So there we go. I did the hardest piece. I'm going to finish up my pieces and we can put this together. So actually I thought I'd come back and show you how I start this piece, since I'm starting with a triangle and I have a square. I'm just going to kind of center my piece here and take a little piece of tape it so it doesn't move on me. And I need to, it's tiny, I need to fold onto, and I'm going to trim it. All right, let's fold it back so my tape sticks. So there we go. I'm ready for my second piece. So I can just line it up. I'm going to pull my tape off. And it's plenty big. We're ready to go. And I'm just going to sew on that tiny little line between F1 and F2. There's my first 2 pieces. I've gone ahead and trimmed for my third. And I'm going to add my little rectangle. And I can see that it falls outside the lines. So now I'm just going to sew between F1 and F2 and F3. That's what our block looks like. These are my pieces, and this is how they're laid out. A, B, C, D, E, and F. So we need to start building right here with this triangle, and we'll build across, and then we'll add this piece here. Once this piece is on, then we can add this piece, and then we can add the top piece. So I have notches, and let's see how they fit. And the way it looks to me is maybe the points are going to land on our edges here, the points of my notches. So let me get this sewn up and see how that worked. That worked perfectly. I have a straight line there and a straight line there. So now we need to add these pieces. I assume they'll probably be the same. Points line up with the edge. That's what it's looking like. Point on this edge, point on this edge. So I'm going to get these sewn, I'm actually ironing towards these long solid pieces. Yep, that worked. Straight edge, straight edge. So now we got to put on this shorter edge. And it's probably going to line up the same way. All right, it looks like this point's landing on this edge and this point's going to land on this edge. And I am going to be ironing again towards this big patch here. Again, straight edge, so just keep on building here. It's looking like my notches are going to be let's see. I think what I want to do is line up this notch here with this edge. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll see how that comes out. And again, I'm going to iron towards this big patch right here. There we go. I ironed towards this big patch. That's what I did in all of this. I ironed towards this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece. And I do have a little notch, but that's well within the 1/4 inch, so I'm not going to worry about it. And now I want to add the top right here. So I'm just going to kind of line up edge to edge. And I think I'll iron it open. I think that's what I'll do. There you go. That is my RS2. It's called Cherokee Lee. And mine's very subtle compared to Dear Jane's. That's okay. These are the colors I chose. And it's still going to be beautiful. We finished week 15. We had some pretty easy blocks like this one, J11. And Field of Dreams, which I'm sure everybody's done a block like this. And then I love the basket weave look in our RS2. I did 2 modified versions where I took the Y seams out. So let me know what you think of that, and let me know what you did with your seams, if you did Y seams or not, or if you totally did it a different way. I would love to see your blocks, so on the socials you can hashtag Dear Jane QAL and I'll find it that way, and you can tag Canary Quilts and I'll find it that way also, and I'll share your blocks so we can see how beautiful all our Dear Jane quilts are going to be. So let me populate my photo quilt, which is really fun. Let's start here. We have D4, D4, and D13, and F5, J11, and RS2, which I had to remember to rotate so that it would fit. But look at that. It's really getting exciting. Again, let me know how it's going for you. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. We'll have fun together. We'll do the quilt together, and we'll have fun together. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.